Now we're going to move to another part of the world. So we're actually going to go to the Americas. So we're going to hear from Pablo Ibarraran from the Interamerican Development Bank, and we're going to hear about the long-term care policy network in Latin America and the Caribbean, and what is called the RedCUIDAR class. So we're looking forward to hear about that. The floor is yours, Pablo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adelina. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating in this meeting, and it's very good to learn about experiences globally, and in other regions that will follow. I guess this presentation on the role of civil society is very important in the context of countries such as Latin America, where the systems, as we will see, are not very developed, the formal state-sponsored system. So the role of civil society is much more important. Well, my name is Pablo Ibarraran. I'm an economist. I work as principal specialist at the Social Protection and Health Division at the Interamerican Development Bank. In the midst of this challenging situation that we're facing due to the pandemic, the IDB is working to strengthen the recovery process of the region. And in the Vision 2025, that's the framework that we've developed to make to respond to these challenges. We think that the care economy has a great potential in terms of providing increasing the welfare of the persons who need to demand care dependency, but also of all those people that work directly, indirectly, in a paid or unpaid way in providing care. And also, this is a very important from the gender perspective in the region. I think differently than in many other regions in the world, from what we've seen so far, in Latin America, the push to strengthen or to develop long-term care systems comes from a gender perspective due to the huge burden of care for women, and this feminist economics has really been a very important role, and that's something that's kind of different to other regions, I believe. As you know, Latin America and the Caribbean, although it's a young region, it is the one that is aging fastest in the world. The number of people in a situation of functional dependency will most likely more than triple by 2050, from 8 million in 2016 was the number, to 27 million or more. This 27 million is a very conservative estimate. This is compounded by the increase in the prevalence of non-communicable diseases among the elderly, as documented in several countries, which is also a lead cause of functional dependency. So it is not only that the population is aging, it's that given that the survival rate is much larger, the people that reach certain ages will have some NCDs and conditions that were not present before, so the rate of care dependency will increase within age bracket. This is also accompanied, as in many other regions, by a decrease in the traditional, let's say, supply of informal care, due to several factors, such as a decrease in the size of families, a greater participation of women in the labor force. Although there was a 10-year setback due to the pandemic, precisely in the participation of women in the labor force, we have identified that supporting care, not only of older persons, but also of children, but supporting care services is key for economic recovery. And also there's a gradual, very slow, but we can see a change in the social norms, in the social construct that normalized women being the main caregivers in the family. So all of these changes really push in the same direction, and it means that in Latin America, countries need to work very hard in order to identify solutions for the growing demand for long-term care. In that sense is that we developed the RedCUIDAR Más, or CUIDAR Plus, and it's a network of countries with the purpose of increasing institutional technical capacity in the area of long-term care services. This network is sponsored by the Interamerican Development Bank, but also by the European Union program Eurosocial Plus, and by the French Development Agency. This is part of a larger initiative called the Aging Facility, funded by the French Development Agency and the bank, which is funding a scheme dedicated to long-term care support, regional and country-specific technical assistance, as well as to promote dialogue, policy research, and knowledge sharing at the regional level, and finance country-specific technical cooperations. Our main purpose in this network is to support countries to move from the stage of policy advocacy and of putting this topic in the agenda and declarations and resolutions that many of the regional countries have. But we need to move towards really the construction of a system that is funded, that has regulations, and that provides services. And that's something that's really something we are trying to work hard into providing countries with the tools to start building a system and start the provision of services, and not so much in the declarations of intent, let's say. RedCUIDAR actually involves over 275 members from 25 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. And let me show you the type of meetings and the topics. I think that's an interesting thing. The topics that we've been able or that have a lot of interest in the region. After a first opening meeting in 2020, we have had 4 additional meetings in terms of how to increase the service supply, what are the financing alternatives for long-term care systems. In Latin America, we're in a situation where the government spends very, very little in long-term care. So this is an area where we really need to be able to provide arguments to mobilize new resources for this. Because most of long-term care, of course, it takes place, but it takes place within the family in an unpaid way. So it is not really resources that you can draw upon. It's resources that are, of course, spent there, but the government has very little investment in this area. So really the financing is one of the key issues that we need to work for. In a following meeting, we talked about formalization certification of the workforce with focus on gender equity. And this is very important in the sense that we want to create to foster a long-term care system that creates good jobs. And that's not the current situation in Latin America for the very small section of care services that are paid, that are formal, let's say. Well, most of the paid are informal. They don't have contracts. They don't have a social security protection. So these are not good jobs right now. And if we want to really invest and develop and have these as an economic sector that will support the recovery, we need these jobs to be good jobs. That means with training, with security, with career paths that are clearly set. So that was a very important discussion in the meeting. And the last one we had is related to that, about certification of care competencies. How do you come upon that to be able to recognize to all the people that are providing care, all the women who are providing care, for them to be able to get some credentials that are recognized and also join the paid labor market. And that, I think, it's a very interesting experience. In all the settings of these meetings, we always have like one presentation from a European country, has been most of the cases, where they tell more or less what the experience has been and what the lessons have been from Europe to Latin America, given that they went through this demographic transition like a few decades before us. And then what are the experiences in the countries? And here, something that's been very impressive is to see that although very few countries have a national policy or actually something taking place in terms of what services provided, they are countries that are working very hard, and that we can see many local initiatives. And that's where I was linking this to the social, to a civil society, sorry. So in many cases, you have local governments, because that's where care is going to take place, that are having very interesting innovations, something that we really need to put a little bit more emphasis on. We also have case studies of aging and care dependency in several countries in the region. We started this like 4 or 5 years ago, where we're slowly building a body of evidence on this. We have had some tools like a cost simulator and a dependency calculator that are tools that can help a country more or less say, okay, if you want a system of these characteristics, what the cost will be, in order to say, okay, in some countries it's 0.2% of GDP, up the way to 0.5 or 0.6 of GDP, but it's important to have a magnitude of what the investment needs to be. And also a dependency calculator that's more like for the individual to say, okay, what are my chances of needing care in the future and of receiving care in the future, given my current characteristics, in order to gain awareness in the general population of this issue. We have many other populations. One area that I think is also very important for us is the silver economy. We see the care economy as part of the silver economy, and we really need to pull strings from everywhere. So when we talk to ministries of finance, we need to talk about the silver economy. We need to talk about the opportunities. So we think we need to have this broad conversation in order to move the agenda forward. I guess in this setting, this might not resonate as much, but if not, we hit walls very, very quickly. And sorry, that was the same. So my last remarks, just to finish, is that through the RedCUIDAR and other initiatives, we hope to accelerate the short and long-term development and strengthening of long-term care initiatives in the region, and to foster the creation of other collaborative actions, such as this one being launched today. Looking beyond the RedCUIDAR, given the essential role of care systems globally and in the region, we are working with countries, for example, Colombia, Peru, Bolivia, Costa Rica, and the Dominican Republic at different stages of development to see where we can push the agenda forward and build systems that are sustainable, equitable, and that start providing services for the population. We from the IDB look forward to working together with LTC COVID International Living Report and this excellent initiative led by Adelina, who's also an advisor of our group and has helped us in many ways in the past years. So I thank you again for the invitation and for the opportunity of learning about all the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pablo. And yeah, very exciting to think about the potential collaborations here and how we can amplify each other's work and this opportunity also to link with these other parts of